Witness Me by Humble Narrator, Chapter 3, Head for the Sunset. He had no idea where he was or how he was alive. All he knew is that he was in a rook tied to a chair, with the sun starting to set over the left side of his body, and his wake up could have been better without the need to waste any water. "About time you got up," said the blonde beauty from before, as she began to put down the bucket before pulling out Naruto's knife, and began to pull his head back while pressing the blade against his throat. "I'm going to ask you once, and you say anything stupid, anything to piss me off, and I will kill you here. Are we clear?" said the blonde beauty, as Naruto could only grunt in response. "Who are you, and who told you about me?" asked the blonde beauty. "Back in town, where we first met, a woman named the Queen Raven, and her gang's called the Sons of Grimm," said Naruto. "Children of Grimm," corrected the blonde beauty. "Right, Children of Grimm were all parked outside, with Queen Raven promising to reward anyone should we know anything about you. Her daughter Bear," said Naruto. "That's not my name. Not anymore. Not ever again," said the blonde beauty. "Okay," said Naruto, as he knows that what not to call her, but didn't know what to call her before. She went and pushed him with her prosthetic arm, not so much as hissing in pain. Naruto spat some blood to the ground before turning to face the blonde beauty again, as she had turned to pick up his rifle. "I'm going to ask you this once, and if I know you're lying to me, I promise you a slow, painful death. Are you here to turn me in and find me?" asked the blonde beauty, as she began to switch off the safety of the gun. "No, I was just trying to get the hell out of there, since your arrival has kinda turned the area into a hostile area," explained Naruto. "And I still intend to do that by getting far away from you and everyone back there," said Naruto. "And how can I trust you?" asked the blonde beauty. "'Cause I plan to keep on walking east. Your mom said your camp was to the south," said Naruto. "Is that what she said?" asked the blonde beauty. "Yeah, before she and her gang drove off," said Naruto, as both of them stared at each other for a good minute. Once they finished their stare down, the blonde beauty went and cut Naruto free, as he began to massage his wrists. "A word of warning: you'll find nothing towards the east other than an equally big, if not bigger, gang of raiders who are more than obsessed with anything to do on wheels," said the blonde beauty. "Then lucky for me, I don't know how to drive, much less got wheels," said Naruto, as he got up from his chair and put his hand out for the blonde beauty to return his stuff, which she did. "You don't, but obviously you know how to fight," said the blonde beauty. "To an extent," said Naruto, as he was still sore from the ass beating he got earlier today. As Naruto began to pack his belongings, the blonde beauty took a minute to think about something before she looked back at Naruto, before smirking as if she had a bright idea. "I think it's good. I think it's a good idea. I think it's good enough," said the blonde beauty before she made her way around and stood in front of Naruto. "Listen, I don't know a whole lot about you as you do with me, but I think that'll suit us just fine," said the blonde beauty. "Okay," said Naruto, not sure where this conversation was going. "Look out in the east, as I said, has an equally big and dangerous gang that call themselves the Windmill Warlords," said the blonde beauty. "What kind of name is that?" asked Naruto. "Don't let the name deceive you. They're the only gang I know who are able to make power out of their winds, and use it to not only fuel their homes, but most of their vehicles and other equipment as well," said the blonde beauty. "Getting power from the wind I call bullshit," said Naruto. "I've seen people also getting power from not only bullshit, but pig shit too. But that's besides my point," said the blonde beauty. "Then what is your point?" asked Naruto. "They got more powerful fuel-sustaining vehicles than anyone else you'll most likely find on this side of the wasteland, and they usually offer them up as rewards to anyone who dares to drive on the tracks of Black Death," said the blonde beauty. "Okay, but what does this have to do with our conversation?" asked Naruto. "Look, I'm a great driver and any firearm you put in my hand. However, I can't do both at the same time, so this is where I need you to come in and be my Lancer," said the blonde beauty. "Lancer?" asked Naruto, as he was definitely knowledgeable in the world of post-apocalyptic wasteland lingo when driving. "It means you either take that rifle or knife of yours and kill that guy who's trying to kill us before he does while we take on tomorrow's challenge," explained the blonde beauty. "Sorry, but I'm not interested. Plus, there's no benefit for me," said Naruto. "Oh yes, there is. You can't go back without dying in the crossfires of the gang closing in from either the north or south, and going to the east will get you nowhere," said the blonde beauty. However, help me win, and should we both survive, we'll drive back to the furthest reaches of the west, where not even my mother dares to venture, said the blonde beauty. Are you serious? There's nothing out west besides ruins of the old world and mutants that roam those lands now, said Naruto, as he's never ran into one, but heard of stories of how a single mutant could kill four well-armed men without dying. Exactly. Plus, I have other business out there, said the blonde beauty. Like what? Asked Naruto, as it had better be a good reason to get himself killed as well. Let's just say I have a promise to fulfill, said the blonde beauty, as Naruto began to shake his head. Sorry, but that ain't a good enough reason for me to die, said Naruto. Fine, don't join me. However, you owe me a debt from saving you back there, and it's only just that it be settled before we part ways, said the blonde beauty, rolling his eyes. Naruto turned to see that this blonde beauty was in desperate need of help, and her only chance was with him. I can't promise anything, but should you prove yourself worthy when we win, maybe they'll allow you a place within the ranks. I'm not sure, but to a lot of gangs, once you've proven yourself to them, an invite is usually what comes next, said the blonde beauty, speaking from experience. Maybe it was because he had a lifetime of guilt built up of never having to help people. Maybe because he had no purpose in life to do anything. Maybe this is his chance to finally die. But for whatever reason, Naruto did something he had never done before. Alright then, we have a deal, said Naruto, as both stuck their arms out and spat in their hands before shaking on it. Right, tomorrow we partake on the tracks of Black Death, and then we head for the sunset, said the blonde beauty. The next day, traveling towards within the lands of the windmill warlords should have been dangerous. However, they were civilized or sadistically patient enough to wait for anyone wanting to participate in the tracks of Black Death. And it seems that a lot of people had chosen to arrive today as they began to ready for the race while taking in the lands they had run. While you'll find the locating a settlement or society has hard gardens called green harvest to water pumping facilities and some sort of gas station. None of those places seemed to have what this place offered. It was a heavily gated area with a mountain tall cars covered by an electric barbed wire fence, keeping anyone unwelcome to come inside, with people running business stands to trade anything from food, water, fuel, weapons, and other vices. You sure that these people are bad? Asked Naruto to the blonde beauty as they drove past these stalls. Don't let them deceive you. They may be a well-built and established society, but at the end of the day, that society is ruled by a power-hungry warlord who seeks nothing more than to rule this side of the wasteland for his own power and benefit, explained the blonde beauty, as they continued to walk down the street, with their vehicle being a properly maintained yellow sports bike. A group of men wearing the uniform of the windmill warlords stepped out of an establishment laughing in celebration. Though out of all of them, one stood out by having long raven hair, wearing a belt lined with a katana as it was lined with bolts and a tube connected to a can of motor oil. He didn't wear a shirt, but instead straps that held various knives as he turned his head towards where Naruto and the blonde beauty was at. Well, what do we have here? How you doing, beautiful? Said the man with the katana as the blonde beauty brushed off his advances. Hey, gorgeous, no need to be so cold with me now. I can promise you a great time, so long as you stay here and hang with me as long as you like, said the man with the katana as he stood in front of her. I don't deal with soft men, warned the blonde beauty, and I don't deal with any man, so why not ditch the washed-up scab and come with a real man for a change, said the man with the sword as he grabbed on the blonde beauty's arm. In return, she turned around and held a vice grip on his wrist as he tried to break free from her grasp and the pain. Last chance before I plant you in the ground, punk, warned the blonde beauty before not only his gang, but people who ran market shops pulled out their weapons and had it pointed at her. This can't be good, thought Naruto, as no way, nowhere could any settlement would go and gang up to kill a couple of outsiders like right now. Unless, of course, the person in question was important. You bitch! Do you have any idea whom you're threatening here? Said the man with the katana. Don't know, don't care, said the blonde beauty. I'll have my men execute you, said the man with the katana. You want to to scare and impress me? Then meet me on the track of Black Death and beat me yourself," said the blonde beauty before she let go of the guy. "All right, but mark my words, that'll be your last regret," said the man with the katana as everyone began to lower their arms as he led his men out of the market. "Way to make friends with the locals," Naruto said sarcastically. "There are only two types of people here in the wasteland, those that are strong and those that are weak," said the blonde beauty as they continued to make their way to the tracks. After the little scene, they made it to where the other racers were at and realized that they are at a huge disadvantage, considering how everyone was driving either cars or trucks that were more heavily armored than they were. Confucius, thought Naruto as both he and the blonde beauty readied themselves for a race. "Hey, ramen guy, I never did get your name," said the blonde beauty, since this whole time they remained professional in not sharing any personal information, so it was only natural that Naruto looked at her with his brow raised. "This could be the end for both of us, and if one of us manages to live, I'd rather know your name. That is your real name. What is your real name?" "Mine is Yang," said Yang as she looked at Naruto. "Naruto? My name is Naruto," said Naruto. "All right, let's try to win this thing," said Yang before fanfare could be heard as the crowds began to roar up upon seeing the announcer. "Ladies and gentlemen, survivors and scabs of the wasteland, since the foundation of our society, many have claimed these lands to be prosperous beyond words. So as such, it has caused to attract many to all kinds of attention," said the announcer. "And while we have long since the numbers and means to fend and kill anyone who dares challenge us, our leader, the warlord of the winds, the man who controls the war, Fujin Fugaku, has thought of better plan, a reasonable one, where anyone who wants something that is beyond their grasp can now attain it," said the announcer. Soon everyone in the crowd began to chant from the top of their lungs "Fujin" for a good minute, giving the racers an idea who's the man they should either fear or keep their eyes open for. "And he offered it to those brave enough to drive on the tracks of death," exclaimed the announcer as the crowd went wild. "And joining us in today's race is one of Fujin's sons. You know him, you love him, Sasuke and his vehicle Raiden," said the announcer as lights were shown on the man with the katana both Naruto and Yang saw back in town as the people were chanting his name. "Oh, shit," said Naruto as he had a feeling they pissed off the wrong guy back in town. "Scabs of the waste, warriors of the road, survivors and racers, start your engines," said the announcer as everyone began to do so and prepare themselves for their final race. "Ready? Race!" shouted the announcer as everyone began to drive on the tracks of Black Death. Instantly, drivers rammed into other drivers, crashed their way through the derby of today, and overall trying to stay alive. As for Naruto and Yang, it was definitely the latter of that list, as drivers would try to ram and run them over, but Yang had proven to be very proficient in driving them out of danger. "Don't just sit there. Take my shotgun and start shooting," said Yang. "I've never fired a gun before, remember?" shouted Naruto as Yang sped up a little to avoid them getting rammed. "Better learn fast. All you got to do is make sure to point the barrel away from us and cock the underlever below the barrel and just pull the trigger," shouted Yang as the driver behind them was persistent in running them over. Doing as Yang instructed, Naruto cocked the weapon back before Yang drove the speed to be driving next to the driver chasing them, where Naruto pointed and pulled the trigger of the shotgun to completely splatter the man's head, causing his vehicle to go out of control that it took out another driver behind them. "Good job! Now be ready for more," said Yang as they continued to drive on the tracks of Black Death, before seeing that not far from them they witnessed the driver and their car being blown. "Careful, drivers, for we've went and placed landmines across the tracks just to make sure you stay sharp," said the announcer. Not caring for this new set of obstacles, Yang continued to drive as Naruto continued to shoot away anyone who got too close. Which, speaking of, Sasuke himself was driving his own car that had a V8 engine sticking out from it, as had the horsepower and the protection to kill anyone that gets in his way. "Yang, we got trouble," said Naruto as he cocked a spent shell out of the shotgun. "Be ready to kill that punk once he gets close enough," said Yang as Sasuke was approaching. Coming from their left side, Sasuke's lancer rolled down his window and tried to pick at them both with a rod, which Naruto did the mistake in trying to grab before feeling a shock that recoiled his hand back. What the hell? Said Naruto as he looked into the back seat of Sasuke's car. That there was a battery connected to the rod his lancer was using. That thing must be connected to electricity. Be careful and keep us safe, said Yang as she kept her eyes focused on the road. I'm trying, said Naruto as he was trying to get a good shot to shoot the Lancer while avoiding getting poked by that electronical rod. Waiting for the right moment, Naruto began to aim his gun at the wheels of his car instead, but upon pulling the trigger, he heard only the shotgun making a click sound. Yang, something's wrong with the gun, said Naruto. You need to reload it, said Yang as she continued to drive. How do I do that? Asked Naruto, as this was the last thing Yang didn't want to hear, yet also forgot to take into account. Right here on my left hip in the little brown pouch are more ammo shells. Grab one and put it inside the same slot where the shotgun shells had ejected from, explained Yang as Sasuke was getting dangerously close and Eden began to tap against her motorcycle a little. Not sure what to do, the duel was only saved when a different driver threw a Molotov cocktail at Sasuke's car, getting his attention. You narcissistic scab, said Sasuke angrily as he diverted his attention away to focus on the driver next to him, with him pulling out a grenade and tossing it in the driver's car before speeding up. As they were in the clear from the explosion, Sasuke was ready to focus back on killing Naruto and Yang, but that was put on hold when his back wheel popped a tire and he began to drive out of control and crashed his car. While Sasuke was able to leave the crash alive, his Lancer didn't, as he'd been electrocuted to death with the pole being crushed into his chest. Driving past him, he saw Naruto and Yang driving past him, with Naruto making sure to unload the spent shell in front of him so he'd known that they were the ones to bring him down, much to his frustration. Eventually, the race came to an end as they made the first loop around, as every other driver had either crashed or died driving on the tracks of Black Death. Ladies and gentlemen, I have never seen this, but a couple of outsiders have gone and not only won today's race, but actually beat one of the Fujin sons, said the announcer, as there was a high mix shouting of cheers and jeers. All right, we won your race. Now give us our reward, said Naruto from below. Of course, our champions, for you all earned yourselves a premium machine that can travel between 100 miles by the gallon and can take either normal fuel or sun fuel to keep her running, said the announcer happily, before someone had attempted to shoot him. Hold it! These scabs don't deserve any reward, not after the shame and disgrace they've put me through today, said Sasuke as he held the Fletcher 45 in his hands as he began to aim his sights towards the blonde duo. Before Sasuke could pull the trigger, someone else had gone and shot a bolt in his arm, causing him to drop the firearm. Sasuke, you know the rules better than anyone else, said a man standing from the VIP seats of the stand with an archer next to him. But brother, said Sasuke. No buts. We shall discuss this later, said Sasuke's brother, as Naruto and Yang felt a sense of relief. Thank you, I mean it, and my offer still stands if you'd like to accompany me out west, said Yang as she looked at Naruto to make up his mind, which had been set for a while now. Something tells me that I'm not gonna fit in right here, no matter what I do, said Naruto as both he and Yang awaited for the rewarded vehicle. End of chapter 3. Witness Me by Humble Narrator, Chapter 4, Limbo Walkers. The car they were driving was nice, even for someone who's never sat passenger could tell they were driving in a nice car. Granted, the car ride was silent, more so it was easy for anyone to doze off and catch some sleep at this hour, which was a problem coming from Yang as she needed Naruto to remain vigilant. Hey, wake up, said Yang as Naruto was having a hard time to stay awake. Seriously, why the hell are we driving at this ungodly hour? Groaned Naruto. Seriously, this car is causing little to no noise as we drive, meaning it's perfect to drive in the dead of night unseen, and I'd rather not stick around and have those band of raiders from that city to change their mind and steal their car back, explained to Yang. You're killing me, said Naruto. Not yet, I'm not. Now stay awake and keep your eyes peeled for anyone from the Children of Grimm or any other marauder on wheels, said Yang angrily, grabbing his knife. Naruto went and poked himself in the thigh with enough force to stay awake a little longer while not fully stabbing himself. As they continued to drive in not only in the dark but in silence, the duo was fairly certain they were making great progress when Naruto spotted some familiar wreckage they were driving by. All right, so I guess there's a reason to stay awake, thought Naruto as he turned his head towards his side, only to spot someone running. What the? Said Naruto as he wasn't entirely sure if what he was seeing was real or if he was starting to go delirious. Hey, did you spot someone out there? Said Yang as her eyes remained focused on the road, as Naruto was now seeing multiple figures running. Yang, I think we got some company, said Naruto as Yang decided to turn her head towards Naruto's window to see a bunch of shadowy figures. Turning on her headlights for a brief second, the shadowy figures themselves suddenly disappeared from sight. Thank God they were only limbo walkers, said Yang before she turned off the lights and proceeded to drive. What are they? Asked Naruto. I'm not sure entirely, though from what my mother told me, these people were victims upon anyone who were around anywhere where the bombs fell, where they fused with their shadows at some point during the blast radius, explained Yang. But otherwise, asked Naruto as he wasn't sure if they were dangerous or not since these things were practically wandering around him while he was asleep. Overall, they're pretty harmless, and even if you should run into a more aggressive one, they can't do anything to anyone, as far as I know at least, said Yang. What do you mean by that? Asked Naruto. I mean they're incapable of moving or lifting anything, let alone putting their hands on anyone, be it dead or alive, said Yang. With his question answered, Naruto was ready to remain silent for the rest of the car ride till they got somewhere where they can rest and be safe enough for him to catch some sleep. Time skip. As morning began to peak, Yang had since given Naruto permission to catch some shut-eye, as they had managed to cross the journey outside of the city of the children of Grim territory. Granted, she still continued to drive far west as a precaution, but as she continued to drive, her thoughts began to drift back to what she would call peaceful times. Only being born but a few years before the world had ended, Yang doesn't remember much, other than her father had decided to take her and what she now understands to be his girlfriend at the time to a safe settlement. What it was really was an old military base that had long since allowed a handful of refugees a place to stay and keep safe, with the intent that the soldiers did all the hard work and protection, and every other civilian pulled their weight in making sure their newfound society never crumbled. She remembered briefly how she attended school, or anyone else for that matter, but only for a week before it all came to an end. It was her mother who had decided to finally make a return and demand that Yang, for the very least, be handed over in exchange of them not harming anyone. While many saw reason to just pawn over a little girl instead of them all having to die and lose all what they have, a sad, cruel reason that Yang had come to terms to agree now wasn't going to happen. What resulted was a 2 week long war against everyone at that base against her mother's army of bikers, punks, and anarchists. While a lot of that time remained hazy, what Yang remembered was that nearly everyone there was killed as her mother claimed victory against what she thought was a sturdy place. But more importantly, she recalled her mother killing her dad right in front of her and has been forcing Yang to think he was a cheater and a bad father, but also Yang begging to not only spare her dad's girlfriend, but the child she had wrapped in her arms. Ever since that day, that was the last time Yang ever saw Summer in her ordinary life as a survivor trying to maintain the remnants of the old world before she was groomed to become the next leader to the children of Grimm. Shaking her head, she decided to seek refuge inside the auto shop of an old gas station as she turned to face Naruto. Admittedly, if he had bothered to groom himself properly, and if he had a better tan, and neither the blue eyes or whiskers like birthmarks, she might have confused him for her father. It seems I still have a use for you still, thought Yang as she stepped out of the car and began to close the garage door before searching around the auto shop for anything and everything useful. Before long, Yang had managed to either find themselves parts to help maintain their vehicle or even trade before she went and laid a large strap over their car as as a means of extra camouflage. Once she was done, she was ready to catch some shut-eye herself as Naruto was starting to come to. "Where are we?" yawned Naruto. "A place for me to catch some shut-eye," said Yang as she had her windows down to tug on the tarp to cover her end at long last. "Hey, since you're awake, keep us safe and don't wander off," said Yang as she began to undo her braces that held her prosthetic arm. not saying a word. Naruto took a moment himself to get up out of the car, where he went and finally stretched his legs and began to examine the gas station for anything useful. While it was no surprise that there wouldn't be any form of food to eat, Naruto was thankful that the water here still ran as he began to take the time and give himself a sink bath. Once he felt cleaner than regular, he tried to find anything useful to pass the time, be it messing with gizmos, looking at old magazines with a lot of photos to see what the old was like, or even a postcard. He found none of those, except for a remote to a TV, a piece of technology that was so alien alien to him, for him, like guns. Giving up to find a means to entertain himself, he went back into the garage and took a seat in an old lawn chair. As he began to rest his head back in order to relax, he was unaware of the fact he was and Yang was being watched. Even though the place was abandoned, it didn't mean it wasn't without amenities for anyone despite desperate or stupid to scavenge. As for who was watching them, it was a young woman around Naruto and Sasuke's age, as she had long pink hair reaching down her feet, with a ribbon keeping her hair, and she was able to watch the blonde duo from the cameras that's been installed. Smirking, knowing that she had caught another prey, she got up from her computer and began to slide on an old foam green sweater riddled with holes and a pair of black spats. Walking out of her room, we see that she walks down the halls. It was dimly lit, with only but a handful of lights bulbs at every 20 feet. Eventually, she came to walk up some stairs. As she walked over warm, fresh blood on the ground, mixed in with old blood that since stained the ground. Once she was at the top of the building, she was halted by two guards, one being a muscular man with various bolts, screws, or arrowheads and knives pierced through his skin to either serve as weapon sheaths or to keep him protected like armor, while the other was a scrawny looking man with a scorpion tattoo on his right arm. Not saying a word, the two guards allowed the pink haired girl in, as she was faced by the duo who run this little nightmare turned reality. Lord Orochimaru, Lady Salem, I bring you both good news, said the pink haired woman, as sitting across from her were two shadowy figures on two stone thrown chairs, with the only thing visible were the various snakes slithering around the man's body. Speak, Sakura. What news do you have for us, my darling little apprentice? Said Orochimaru in a sickly sweet tone. I spotted two wasters on our camera, one male, one female, both driving an automobile unlike anything we've ever collected, said Sakura. Really? Anything else worth mentioning? Asked the Salem with a motherly tone that still sends fear down the spine. Yes, the woman in question happens to have a fully functioning prosthetic arm, not one made up of rivets and hydraulics, but rather old world tech, said Sakura, as this really got her boss's attention. Very interesting, my dear. I'll be sure to send in my four horsemen into acquiring them, and should we be in luck, I might teach you how to properly operate and maintain any injury they might sustain, my dear, said Orochimaru. Thank you, Lord Orochimaru. Lady Salem, said Sakura as she began to leave the duel alone. You spoil that girl, said Salem. That girl has talent and ambition to become the best organic mechanic. If anything, those skills might spare her an early death, or as a breather, said Orochimaru. If you say. Now, can we do something about this damned lightning? Said Salem. Of course, said Orochimaru as he pulled in a mic that was but within arm's reach. Kabuto, do you read me? Said Orochimaru. Loud and clear, sir, said Kabuto through the static. It's awfully dim where we're at, so fix the problem, said Orochimaru. Copy that, sir, said Kabuto as a blood-curdling scream could be heard in the background with the static. As we pan out of their tower, we see that below them, blocked by a fence, were captured slaves, young, old, man, and woman, alike with bolts, pins, and anything that could pierce or pierce cauteries to the skin, was as they're all forced to work to death. The area was only lit thanks to the large pit of fire in the center of it all, as two guards began to drag in a new dead body into that fiery pit. To anyone who's never believed that there was indeed worser places out in the wasteland, they clearly never had set foot in the ring of fire, with it sadly being one of the many levels of hell within this wasteland. End of chapter 4.